We're going to interview Mr. Greg Stomberg. Why don't you introduce him for us? Say, we got a world-class musician on the line. Say something, make him, talk him up real quick.
This is Mr. Greg Stomberg, a world-class musician, and I love musicians, as Shakespeare says, if music be the fruit of love. Play on.
Hey, Greg, you there?
Yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction.
Yeah, that was Carol. Christmas Carol. She's on the line, so she might help me do some of these questions at you.
Okay, sure.
Now, first of all, Mr. Greg Stomberg, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Doniphan, Missouri.
Missouri. So is that considered Midwest?
For southern Midwest.
Are you a fellow Red State?
No, I'm from Illinois, but I happen to be in Missouri right now.
Yeah, but was Missouri a red state, though?
No, actually, it was a northern state.
See, I'm trying to connect with you in some way, because Ohio's very red right now. We got a lot of corruption with our local politicians and our statewide politicians. Perhaps you heard of CoinGate and Bob Taft and approval ratings dropping and all that kind of controversy with the Republicans in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with politics in general.
Well, that was just breaking the ice, So we're going to get you on because I traded with Greg over the internet. I forgot how I got in contact with you. I think I did a search or something, and you recommended me to Nut Music, and I found out I played on the air a number of times your cassette, which you commissioned and released, called Underground Beatles Songs.
What is it called?
Oh.
He put out a tape where he had a lot of contributions of people doing their own versions, covers of Beatles classics.
Uh-huh.
Now, but you're also your own musician. That's just something you're known for. That's how I got to know of Greg's work. And then Greg, when I traded him something for this Beatles tape, he sent me a tape of his own material. And I wanted to know, Greg.
Yes.
How'd you get involved with making music?
Well, in 1990, the underground magazines and newspapers were making a big comeback.
Now, so first, let's. I don't want to cut you off, and I hate doing that, but I want to back up a little bit. Now, you're saying that they were making a comeback. There was underground tape trading scene throughout the 80s, correct?
Yeah, mostly it got pretty big in the late 80s and then in the early 90s.
So there was a resurgence you noticed in the early 90s of underground. Let's talk about, because a lot of people have no idea what you're talking about. I had people calling up today requesting Traffic for me to play. So you have to fill them in on the underground tape trading zine scene of the 80s into the 90s, and which is pretty much the internet when it came along in the later 90s, when it came on full force, pretty much ate into that scene, I think.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
let's talk about, real quick, since I believe you were part of that scene, the underground 80s tape and zine trading scene and its relations to the punk movement and everything that goes along with that. Just real quick, and in your summarization, let's go.
Basically, I wanted people to record my songs, and I thought, well, it's going to be hard to get complete strangers to do that. So I opened them up into sending me Beatles songs, and it worked out very well for everyone.
When was this?
This was in approximately 1989 to 1990.
So did you put a classified in back of some of these underground music magazines, like Maximum Rock and Roll, Flipside? I don't know which ones you used.
Yeah, and then there was Fact Sheet 5, and a magazine called Poop Sheet.
Yeah,
and I wrote to every musician I could find, telling them that if they had Beatles songs, they could send it to me, and I would send them back a cassette of songs that other people had sent me. So it's all just normal people, musicians, sometimes bands, sometimes solo work.
How long did it take for you to get enough responses to put together a volume of these underground Beatles versions?
About a year and a half.
And
even then, the very first tape in 1991 was like a 30-minute cassette.
Now, were people getting pissed off at you, saying, hey, I sent you this thing a year ago, and you still haven't put this thing out? I understand that projects in the underground sometimes take a long time to complete.
Yes. No, everybody that worked with me was real cool about it.
They were understanding. They knew what lay ahead.
And then after the 30-minute cassette, by 1992, I had a full 90-minute cassette then. So all of the original people then, they got a 90-minute cassette for being the first people that only got a few bands and a few songs.
And then you would, when it finally came around to completion, you would advertise it in the same kind of magazines, and people would send away for it?
Yeah, people would generally write to me first and ask about it, and I would tell them, well, I'm just a Beatles fan, but I happen to collect Beatles songs by musicians. So most times, if they had a Beatles song already recorded, they would go ahead and just send me a copy of it.
Now, are you a fan of, let's say, bigger known bands, not underground people, but are you a fan of anyone doing a Beatles song, or does it have to be people who are obscure?
I started out with any Beatles song I could find on any album. So I had
You had Beatles Mania.
I had 85 90-minute cassettes of Beatles songs.
Get the hell! You had 85-minute that you compiled yourself.
Yes.
From starting when? What year?
I started doing it like in 1988 to 1989.
And from those few years.
Yes.
A period of 1 year, you had 70 tapes full of Beatles covers from easily available albums that you found.
Pretty much. It started out slow. I had the first tape for a long time, and then it just exploded, and I started getting, I'd have 7 tapes, and then 12 tapes, and then 20 tapes.
Now, I question this because the internet wasn't, what it is today. You can't just type in and find out which bands might have covered them. How did you find out? How did you track down these different versions of or even know the musician's name and which albums?
I had 1,000 albums at the time.
From your own collection?
Yes. So, and everybody put out Beatles songs, from the Chipmunks to symphony music. Ted Nugent did a couple of Beatles songs. Once it got going, it was very easy to do. Actually, there's someone that has more Beatles songs than that. This person has like 900 90-minute cassettes of Beatles songs.
Who is this person?
If you search the internet for Steve Willis comic books, if you find the Steve Willis that does comics, he has a greater Beatle collection than I have.
So there is...
He